Olá internet, aqui é o Barroso. Eu tive a oportunidade de realizar uma entrevista com dois desenvolvedores da Blizzard, responsáveis pela minha classe favorita, o Mago. Para esta entrevista eu pude observar a nova árvore de talento para o Mago Frostfire, a Hero Spec nova vindo em The World Within. Ainda não foi disponibilizado ao público, então não poderei compartilhar com vocês, mas nesta entrevista vocês vão conseguir ter uma ideia de como vai funcionar o Frostfire, além de poder conhecer mais do desenvolvimento da classe para a próxima expansão. A entrevista foi feita em inglês, tá gente? Fiz o meu melhor, mas coloquei também a tradução das minhas perguntas na tela para facilitar. Sem mais delongas, aproveita o vídeo e se inscreva no portal para dar laranja e deixa seu like, hein? I'm a Brazilian content creator for World of Warcraft, only World of Warcraft. It goes without saying that I love this game so much, so one more time, thank you for this interview, thank you to make this happen. And please introduce yourselves.
Hi, I'm Jade Martin, one of the lead combat designers on World of Warcraft, and I've been on the team now almost 5 years, but I've been at Blizzard for a little over 8.
Nice.
Hello there, I'm Rodney Pare. I'm also a combat designer on the World of Warcraft team. I've been a designer on the team for about 1.5 years now, and I've been at Blizzard for about 6 years.
Yeah, my channel is on YouTube. I have a channel, it's called Portal para Dalaran. In Portuguese, it's Portal to Dalaran. It's about the lore of the game that I love very, very much. But this interview is not about the lore, not about the history. It's about my favorite class in World of Warcraft, that is the Mage. I really love the Mage. I started to play as a Mage in Warlord of Draenor. Yes, I play with my girlfriend. She was a rogue, and I was a Frost Mage. And we are the most annoying couple in Draenor. I have to say this, I'm not used to talk English this much, so be kind to me, please. If anything goes without understanding, I can repeat. That's my way, all right?
You're way better in English than I would be in Portuguese, so you're
Oh, thank you for this. So the Mage in World of Draenor has had a skill that I love very much. I think it's pretty cool. That was the Frostfire bolts, right? In World of Draenor, the Mage had this. In this interview, we're gonna speak about the Frostfire hero talents that is to come in the War Within. This is hard. This is a hard title to
Doing
say.
Great.
The War Within is gonna come out a lot of times. So the new hero spec for the Mage, the Frostfire Mage, gets my attention very much. I play with Fire Mage one time in Legion. I play with Frost Mage another time, and I will start my questions now. Can I?
Yes, please, absolutely.
All right. We had a closer look to the talent trees of the Frostfire, right, for this interview, and I want to ask a few things. Let's go. So in the new hero talents, we had the Frostfire Mastery, and it was the first thing that catch my attention, I mean, that we have a buff for mastery and haste, right? Can both fire and frost spells stack mastery and haste and be used simultaneously, or we're gonna have a buff called Frostfire Mastery that is both haste and mastery, and we're gonna catch up the haste and mastery with our spells? Can you understand?
Yep, I can answer that. So there are 2 separate buffs, one for each school. The intent is not that you're casting a bunch of the opposite stuff. If you're Frost, you're not casting a ton of extra fire spells, but more so you're getting the fire procs from your Frostfire bolts or the procs from Frostfire Infusion, the little bolts that will fire out.
Oh, I understand.
Yeah, and
So
just to add on, like you might stack one, depending on what spec you are, you might stack one a little faster than the other. But you have things within the tree to help accumulate the other school's buff, right? So that ideally you're still going to see these and be able to maintain them without having to dip too heavily into other schools of magic.
And they don't refresh the cooldown. Yes, it's 12 seconds if I recall correct. 12 seconds to get to the 8 stacks. I'm afraid about my eye twinkling every time I play a Frostfire Mage, like looking at the buffs is get the 8 stacks. I don't know, but yeah, if we have a lot of skills that we will implement, if I am a Frost Mage, I will have the Frostfire to catch up on the buff, the Fire Mastery buff, right?
Yep, that's correct.
Thank you very much. And my next question, will the mastery stats benefits change when you are Frostfire Mage, applying to both fire and frost spells? Like Frost Mage, my mastery builds up my icicles, right? If I'm a fire, it's all about the ignition. If I'm a Frostfire Mage and build up my mastery, it will change somehow about my skills, or it will stay the same?
Yeah, so the goal here with this is to be as seamless as possible when we look at integrating it into your rotation, whether you're playing frost or fire. So when we talk about ignite, right, your frostfire bolt will accumulate and ignites dot, right? And if you're playing frost, the frostfire bolt will accumulate icicles. And this is actually true with anything within the talent tree, or it should be. And if it's not, please give that feedback when you guys have a chance to play. Anything that fireball or frostbolt get modified by, Frostfire Bolt should also gain those modifiers as well. Right.
That answer?
Yeah, we don't want to interrupt your rotation, right? Like generally speaking, fire and frost have a pretty tightly tuned rotation, especially when you're thinking about heating up and hot streaks and playing into that, especially within combustion windows. We don't want to interrupt that, right? This should feel seamless and it just inject a little extra flavor, a little bit of extra things to think about, but it really shouldn't feel like we're complicating your rotation anymore, right? We're not adding to it.
Oh, thank you. Yeah. We love Frost Mage. I think Frost Mage is more easier than Fire Mage. So I'm all favor about simple rotations, 100%. But yeah, this implements a little more things. I think it turns a little more cooler. It make fire spells and has a little buff of haste and mastery. With this will be pretty cool. So not mastery changes. The Frost Mage and Fire Mage stay the same. The rotation stay the same. It's just an implement of things, right?
Yep, exactly. And I mean, you'll have a couple of things you'll want to pay attention to when the Frostfire Bolt, you gain a proc of Frostfire Bolt or things like that. But it's not going to interrupt your rotation. It should feel relatively seamless.
Okay. So what about the visual effects? I mean, would there be a new visual effect change, like when we had a talent called imbued warding, right? That is the frost armor. If you are frost mage and cast frost armor, you will also cast fire armor, right? This will have a new visual effect of a conjunction of fire and frost, or will gonna be one on top of another, like was in Torghast. We had this. We have a talent that make all the armor things go one on top of the other, and it was actually pretty cool. It gives a cool effect.
Be open to feedback on the shields part, but no current plans to adjust the visual from what it was before. But we do have plans for a visual update for Frostfire Bolt itself, so you can expect a new visual there. And then we're looking at other areas where we can implement other visual effect increases. But the main one here is a new awesome Frostfire Bolt visual.
Yeah, I like this. I would like the color change a little bit, maybe purple. I think with fire and frost, it will just be more cooler for a mage to have different colors of skills. It's pretty interesting. I like Frostfire a lot. There is a few talents like elemental affinity and isothermic core that has a difference if you are a frost mage or if you are a fire mage. I myself can think that is because the balance of things for PvP and PvE, like frost spells like ice block can change a lot more of the gameplay like a fire spell. But to give you the opportunity to clarify to every mage players why this difference between them, please.
You answered the question for me. It is a balance concern between the two. Comet Storm has half the cooldown of Meteor, so we just need different tuning knobs there between the two. And then for, what was the other one? Elemental Affinity, the cooldown reduction. Frost does not have access to as many fire spells as fire has access to frost spells. So we're still trying to figure out the exact numbers there, but we want them to be different so that the balance between them makes a bit more sense if you're a frost mage, especially in this case.
Yeah, I got it about the balance. We're gonna
Sorry, just to add on to that too is one thing
Yes,
here
please.
is like these numbers are very very early on. They're bound to change, right? So it's very possible that we see the numbers align for both of these. But really, this is just there, like Rodney said, to give us a tuning knob in the future in case one proves to be weaker than the other, right? We just want to make
Yeah.
sure we have that so we can tune as needed.
Yeah, that's fair. That's fair. Tunings happens all the way of the expansion, like all of the class, all the classes. It's just like that. But yeah, I think it's because of this. But that gives me one more question. We're gonna have there's any news about new spells, like new fire spell for frost mage or new frost spells for fire mage in the rotation to add more aside the frost firebolt, of course.
Yeah, when we're when we're talking about hero talents, I think what you see is kind of what you get. So when we look at Frostfire Bolt would be the new one. We're not necessarily looking to inject any new abilities right now. They're that I mean that could change, but at the moment we're really focused on getting hero talents into as polished of a state as they can be when they become publicly testable, so we can start iterating on that feedback. Right now, when you look at a lot of the reason why we did these hero talent trees is when you look at the talent revamp going into Dragonflight, it added a lot of abilities to most of the classes, right? And for a lot of people that can feel a little overwhelming. So injecting even more
Yeah.
abilities into it was something we were really trying to be aware of and not necessarily do unless we absolutely felt. So you'll see across hero talent trees, there are some that do grant a new ability, but then there are some that have a more passive gameplay style or one that injects a proc into the rotation. So it's not always an ability replacement, right? It really just depends on
Right.
what the class being worked on is, and if it has if it can take on another ability or not. So we were really trying to be careful there and not inject too many extra abilities.
Too many abilities. Yeah, I know. Okay. Thank you. So the next question is about two new talents for Frostfire Mage. We have severe temperatures that gives you the stacks for the next Frost Firebolt, right? And Frostfire Infusion that triggers an additional bolt of Frostfire on your fire and frost skills. My question is, how will Frostfire Infusion work, and will it use the stacks from severe temperature?
I can answer this one. I think we could have worded this better because we're saying Frostfire Bolt, the ability, and then there's bolts of Frostfire, which is what this is triggering, and these are separate effects.
I see.
So yeah, it's shooting a tiny missile basically as a trigger off of some of your normal casts. So basically the expectation is as you're playing and doing your normal rotation, you're getting extra little bolts of Frostfire shooting out, and this would trigger the Frostfire Mastery effects, but it's not going to consume the Frostfire Bolt damage increase effect.
Oh, good. Thank you. It's just like a new ice coast that goes in when you use your spells.
Similar to that. Yep.
So Frostfire Bolt will replace Frostbolt and Fireball, correct?
Yep.
And the talent skills that benefits both Fireball and Frostbolt will instead benefits Frostfire Bolt, like Cold Front and Firefall.
Yep. I think I mentioned it earlier, but just to re-clarify, anything that would benefit again Frostbolt or Fireball should also benefit Frostfire Bolt.
Yeah, thank you.
If it's not, please let us know so we can get that fixed as soon as possible.
All right.
Once you guys get your hands on it.
All right. The next question is, Frost Mages always needed to trigger the shatter mechanics to do more damage, which increased the chance of critical hits on frozen targets. Do you think that Frostfire rely on the same thing, or will be more ample?
Yeah, I think we would see this like you want to consider your shatter combos and interacting with Winter's Chill the same way you would with like a Frostbolt. So again, should relatively play the same way when you're thinking about it rotationally.
The explosion of the Frostfire stack up with the Frostfire empowerment will also use the shatter benefits?
Need to double check, but I'm fairly certain that it would. Yes.
Oh, that would be incredible.
Yeah.
All right.
Yeah. Yeah, should double check, but I think that is the intent. Yep.
Okay, I believe the one thing that put Frostmages do not put Frostmages on the top of the tier, honestly, is the shatter mechanic. All right. Looking at the hero talents, it seems that despite the specs being different, Fire Mage and Frost Mage, the rotations become a little more alike. But you say early that you don't want to change the rotation of the Fire Mage and Frost Mage, right? You just want to increment a little something. But anyway, I feel that a Frostfire will rely on the Frostfire empowerment, the Flash Freeze Burn, and the Frostfire Bolt a little more, and maybe on time the specs Fire Frost will become more alike in the rotation, the gameplay mechanics. There is something that you want to maintain. Do you plan to maintain the difference between the specs despite those similarities?
Absolutely. The intention here isn't to homogenize the two specs to feeling similar when you're thinking about their rotation. I think the core identity of the specs, when you think about them, right? Fire with combustion, you're heating up, and hot streaks, right? Like everything you do is integral to keeping that engine running, right? And that's very different from Frost. And with the addition of Frostfire Bolt, again, that we've crafted it in such a way that both specs should benefit similarly, but they shouldn't play the same, right? And I'm the hope is that they don't. If and in our internal testing that hasn't been the case. Sorry, it hasn't been the case that they play similarly. But if when we go public with it and people have the opportunity to test it, if it does feel too similar, that would be excellent feedback to have and something we would actively act on so that we don't see the two specs become homogenized. But again, I think that the play styles of both specs are pretty different from one another. And I don't think Frostfire Bolt would be introducing anything that would make them too similar, even though they have similar buffs to care about.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah, I believe we'll not go so similar. Frostfire, Frost Mage, and Fire Mage. We've used this new talent tree differently. I believe so. I don't know if it was clarified before, but will we have all the talents that is the talent tree, or we're gonna choose a way, like the middle way, the right, the left, and are we gonna have them all at the end of the leveling?
You get all the talents as you're
All
leveling up. Yeah.
All right.
You get the first one for free, and then the rest, the last 10 are just from leveling. And there are choice nodes in there to make sure there's some different options you have within a single tree.
Okay. So we ended the Frostfire talent tree with Flash Freeze Burn, which can refresh the duration of the Frostfire mastery. And that was a relief because it makes the rotation more fluid. That's how it was intended. Was it needed to what is needed to master this spec?
I can talk a bit to this. So the question is, what is needed to master being a Frostfire mage?
Yes, and was intended to make the rotation fluid with the Flash Freeze Burn that resets the cooldown.
Mm-hmm. I believe that proc also gives you full stacks of Frostfire Mastery as well. So part of that was to alleviate any some of the tension behind managing two buffs. There's a lot of buffs in WoW, so we're not trying to force you to stare at the buffs all the time. So just to relieve some tension and allow you to get a fun proc. Also reminiscent of the old Frostfire Bolt proc too. So there's some love for the to the past there as well. But yeah, we're not trying to like Jade had said before. We're not trying to like overcomplicate the rotation. So this capstone was meant to sort of alleviate some of the pressure of maintaining these buffs.
It works. That was I was thinking. I was looking at the talent tree and get to the end. You will make more fluid. I'm sure of this. So can you provide any hints about the Spellslinger and the Sun Fury here? A little something.
We're actively working on those, and we would love to drop some early spoilers, but we're not quite ready for that. But when we are, we'll definitely do blog posts similar to the ones going out this round. But again, yeah, still working on those, but we are excited for players to get their eyes on them.
No
No,
problem.
no sneak peeks. Sorry.
No sneak peeks. I don't ask much. Just love to some furry has at least one phoenix, please. Give me one phoenix.
Fair enough.
So, are there any ideas for new improvements from the team that couldn't be implemented right now on the Frostfire MAGE? Some ideas, some creative.
Yeah, good question. I mean, I think there are always some ideas that we're going with. Things that we've explored and we're not sure if we wanted to do or not. And that's just kind of the design process where you go through a bunch of iteration before you land on something that you're excited about. I think the tree that we're presenting incorporates as many of the cool ideas that we had. But that isn't to say that it's uh perfect, right? Like I'm sure once players get their hands on it, get a first sneak peek at it and look at the design, there will be a lot of comments and commentary there that we'll want to react to, and based on your feedback, I'm sure the tree will change will change quite a bit if need be. I think one idea we were kind of exploring that turned into isothermic core was maybe doing like a Frostfire version of calling down things, not to like bring it in, but really it just kind of like it didn't really enhance the tree much of in much of any way, so it just felt like it was just kind of tacked on, and so we ended up with isothermic core, which we felt like it was a good compromise there. But yeah, there were a couple things we explored. I think this was the best version to put forward to players, though.
Yes, I must say I like this version. I like the thing that you have the comet storm and the meteor falls down the same place would be great to see. So Mage is a class hard to hit the great crowd control and movement skills that it has. It is what makes me love the class. We think that Mage hero class will improve this somehow on the war within?
Am I detecting a bit of like a PvP player here, perhaps?
No, not even. I'm a casual.
Okay, understood. Yeah, you're right that mages have a lot of control and mobility. Our intent is not to increase that heavily. Each hero talent tree has one survivability node and one defensive node, and we're not anticipating a large increase in control, survivability, or mobility across the hero talent trees, including any of the trees we have.
Right.
And if it does come down to like whether it's PvP or PvE, we do have separate tuning knobs between the two in case the talent is too effective or too weak in one area.
Yeah, I love the melting frozen ice block that you can walk or in ice block movement. It's cool. It's cool. I like this. So about the orbs, can we stop throwing them and just put them in one place for good? And can we have a fire orb?
Short answer, not in the immediate term. I think it's something we've internally discussed quite a bit, actually. Whether being able to place an orb or shooting it out. I think there's kind of two lines of thought here, and really the skill shot aspect nature of like Arcane Orb and Frozen Orb right now is really unique, and it is something that we recognize can be frustrating at times, and we've tried to do some things to alleviate a little bit of that pressure, especially on like Frozen Orb, increasing the radius and making it a little bit more forgiving for mobs who move in and out of it, right? Because obviously they have Concentrated Cool, which is the PvP talent that does let you place it, but it does take out a lot of the skill expression of the class, right? And it homogenizes it a little bit into the targeting system of other specs, and or like you think Flame Strike with fire, right? Just placing down a reticle, right? Like it starts to brings in those similarities between the specs where they start to feel the same and don't have something that make them distinctive, and really that is important so that each class does feel a little bit different. We definitely have heard that feedback, and we sympathize with it. We want to make it as friendly as possible without completely just removing that aspect. And then for the second part of that question, flame orbs are cool. Not saying no to it completely. I just don't think that's in our immediate plans.
Right.
But if it makes sense for the rotation or for Sun Fury, not saying we're doing it for Sun Fury, but if there were a time and place for a flame orb, I absolutely think it's something we could explore.
Yeah. What about a pyro glacial spike together? A pyroblast and glacial spike would be
I
crazy.
mean, just do all of the damage.
Yeah,
just
why not?
all of it.
All right. Yeah, mages have many skills based on schools of magic, like abjuration, transmutation, and I see a lot of this in World of Warcraft. It's a reference about the school of magics of the fantasy in general, like D&D. But what about the divination or conjuration spells? Would we have some of this in the future? Do time warp counts as a divination spell?
I don't think we necessarily have like a divination school traditionally. Like I think for us it would be considered like arcane really, or conjuration is obviously a thing.
Yeah,
We don't have any immediate plans right now. Again, this is just if it makes sense for the class and there's a cool idea that we come across that we would like to do, we would absolutely explore it. But again, when we look back at the Dragonflight talent tree as it was introduced, there were a lot of additional buttons added, right? So we would, a lot of times conjuration, conjuring things is just an extra ability that you have to put on your action bar that maybe doesn't always have combat application, and so it just feels like you're flooding players with extra abilities. And Mage has a lot of this comparatively to you have your teleports, you have your conjure food. If you're arcane, you got your conjure mana gem. Like there's a lot of these things already, and so there are a lot of things that you kind of have to be aware of and kind of put on your bar, because while they're not always relevant, they're situationally relevant, right? Where depending on what you're doing and when you might need them, so you start seeing like your action bars fill up quite a bit. So we don't want to inject too much of that. I think there's a place for it if we dissect things and look at removing somewhere else and to add things in. It's definitely a possibility. If there was, like, Mage would be a good, we have things like alter time ward that are kind of timey magic, right? And those are, it would be a good class for it. But we also have Evoker too, which does play around with a bit of the, kind of the time magic thing, the time magic school, if you will.
Yeah. Yeah, I would ask a final question though. It was about the time maze, when we're gonna have time maze, but I think you kind of answered this right now. Yeah.
I was thinking divination, conjuration, time, kind of all wrapped into one there. But so we kind of I don't think we like no outside of Hero Talents, no new specs there. Maybe Spellslinger might do something kind of cool there, but having to do with time. But for the most part, right now, I think we're happy with the schools of magic provided by Mage and not really looking to open it up.
Cool. So you guys are developers. You are more thrilled with the Frostfire in PvP or PvE?
We design for both at the same time. Generally PvE focus first to make sure it feels good in a very important part of the game that everyone's encountering throughout the game. And then we're also, we have people who are very strong in PvP who are looking at the tree and making sure nothing is out of band and it feels good there too. So we're looking at both areas when we're considering designs for these trees.
Yeah, and I think sometimes when you design these, like sometimes things just lend themselves better to one aspect of the game, and that can be really cool. Like one really good one example that comes to mind outside of Hero Talents is when we were designing Covenant abilities, right? Like Spirit Bastion on Warrior was an ability that really just felt like a very strong PvP type of ability. Being able to tie people, tether them to a location was really cool, and we love that. And so while that had really good PvP application, it was a little bit more limited in PvE. Like, yeah, it's great to be able to kind of hold some, in Mythic Plus, hold some enemies into a location, but it didn't quite fit all the criteria for what would need to make it competitive with other PvE abilities. And so we added some things along the way, right? So as this again part of the iterative process, we're always looking out for all aspects of the game. We understand WoW is a huge game, and we want to make sure we're catering to as many people as we can when we are designing these things.
Nice, very nice. Oh, that was all my questions.